Hi everyone, welcome to Miss Adams Teachers and in Spectacles. In this brief video, I'm going to be taking you through 5 dramatic devices that you can use in your analysis of an in Spectacles that will really boost your grade. So let's get started. So what actually are dramatic devices? Dramatic devices are the techniques that a playwright will use within his play to create meaning or to create effects. They're the things that you can do with a play that you wouldn't be able to do with a novel, for example. I'm going to take you through 5 key dramatic devices. Now, the biggest one that we'll look at is stage directions, but with stage directions, you can find different dramatic devices. So I'm going to break it down into 3 for you. The first stage direction dramatic device that you're going to spot are going to be things like props, where the playwright, tells you what to actually physically put on the stage. Have a little look at this. This is from the opening stage directions of an In Spectacles. Edna, the parlour maid, is just clearing the table, which has no cloth, of the dessert plates and champagne glasses, etc., and then replacing them with a decanter of port, cigar boxes, cigarettes. Port glasses are already on the table. And then we get a description of the clothing that they should wear. So props being very, very sort of specifically detailed to us. Now, why? What do the props reveal? Well, it tells us immediately about the status of the Burling family. All of these items that are on the table, dessert plates, the fact that they're having dessert, that they're able to get in sweet foods, etc. Champagne is a very expensive alcohol. Particularly so is port, the fact that they've got decanters of ports. Decanters are special bottles that you put port in so that it can breathe before you serve it. Cigars are incredibly expensive as well. So Priestley is going to an effort here to show us from word go that these are upper class in status, and that they like kind of luxury. And then we're reminded that again in the fact that the men are in tails and white ties. So very, very important to analyse the props. The second thing that you might see in your stage directions is references to lighting. Now, in Spectacles, there is a hugely important and very symbolic stage direction about lighting, which is in front of you here. It tells us that the lighting should be pink and intimate at the beginning. Why? This is about colour symbolism. Pink as a colour suggests like warmth and comfort. It reminds us that the Burlings are really at ease, not just because they're with, family and obviously dear friend in Gerald, but because they're comfortable in their lives. You could also suggest that that comfort is a form of oblivion, as in they don't know what's about to hit them. Likewise with the intimate, it's about their familiarity. Very ironic, because of course they're about to discover all sorts of things about each other that they certainly didn't know before. But the most symbolic part of this is the way that the lighting changes when the inspector arrives. The inspector is an agent of change, and that is demonstrated in the way that the light becomes brighter and harder. Okay. So let's start off with this idea about it becoming harder. That sounds quite unpleasant. There's a sense of discomfort here. Now that's perfect because of course the inspector is there to interrogate them. So this bright, hard light is like an interrogation light in an interview. We also have the comparative adjective brighter. Okay, and now something being bright isn't always necessarily bad. You've got this idea about illumination. So this is a symbolic little hint about what facts are going to be brought to light, or whether or not the Burlings are going to be able to change. Certainly characters like Sheila and Eric will be illuminated by the knowledge that the inspector brings. So another cracking one there for you. Sound effects will also be referenced in the stage directions. And again, there is a biggie here with the inspector. So we hear the sharp ring of a doorbell and Burling stops to listen. So let's just look at this bit here, and I am interested in the adjective sharp. Again, that connotes something difficult or like some discomfort, maybe a sense of pain. And the fact that Burling stops to listen to it suggests that in some way it's jarring to him. It certainly interrupted him. Now, what's particularly interesting is when you look at what it's interrupted. Look at the end of his speech. But take my word for it, you youngsters, and I've learnt in the good hard school of experience that a man has to mind his own business and look after himself and his own. And Burling is on a rant. This is a huge speech about capitalist ideals, about the idea of personal responsibility, the very opposite of social responsibility. So he is basically saying, look after yourself, look after number one, don't worry about anyone else. That is what is interrupted by this sharp ring. That's why he has to stop and listen. So that sharp ring is actually a little moment of foreshadowing. We're being told that the man at the door is going to interrupt these kinds of thoughts, is going to try and stop them in their tracks, just like he has here. Okay, moving outside of stage directions, there are other types of dramatic devices. A really important one to Inspector Calls is, of course, dramatic irony. Now, it was first performed in 1945, but it's set in 1912. So the audience sitting in there in 1945 have lived through that 30-odd years where all sorts of things have happened. So they have the benefit of their shared experience of the world and how they've been living. So when Mr. Burling says that the Titanic is unsinkable, absolutely unsinkable, they know he's dead wrong. They know that very, very soon it is going to sink. And the certainty that is presented here in his adverb and in his repetition makes him look more foolish. Likewise, when he says that the Germans don't want war in 1912, and even goes as far as using the exclamative fiddlesticks to demonstrate his utter scorn in the idea that anyone might want to go to war, we know that he's wrong. Likewise, when he talks about the capital versus labour agitations and how they're going to disappear, they're going to dissipate, we know that the next period of time continues all of these troubles and threats of labour strikes. He is dead wrong. So why is Priestley doing this? Yes, he wants us to see that Burling is incorrect, that he's foolish. Yeah, that's fine. But we've got to also think about what Burling represents. Burling represents capitalism. So when we don't trust Burling and his views, when we don't respect Burling and his views, it's actually transferred onto what he stands for. So it undermines his capitalist standpoint, and that's what Priestley is trying to do here. The last one we will look at is the entrances and exits. This is brilliant, the way that, you know, when you're a playwright, you can literally like lift a person, take them off the stage and have them walk in at a dramatic moment, and it's so visual. So one of the ones that I want to talk to you about is this brilliant one right early on, where Burling and Gerald are having a conversation about what his sort of mother would think of things. And Burling says, well, when she comes back, you might drop a hint to her. This is about him becoming a knight. And you can promise her that we'll try to keep out of trouble during the next few months. Lols. At that moment, guess who walks in? Eric. Eric being one of the kind of greatest scandals to Mr. Burling. By the end of the play, aside from what Eric did to Eva, he's also disgraced the company. You know, he's stolen from his father. So the fact there's irony created here, the fact that Eric walks in at this moment where they're being all self-congratulatory, nothing will happen here, is particularly fitting. Another one that I wanted you to look at is Mrs. Burling. So this is at the end of Act 2. Mrs. Burling, agitated. I don't believe it. I won't believe it. Sheila says, Mother, I begged you and begged you to stop. This is, of course, about the young woman who Mrs. Burling sent away and basically said, oh, well, whoever the husband or the man that got this girl in trouble, he needs to be held accountable. And of course, another moment of wonderful irony, dramatic irony really by this point. The inspector holds up a hand, we hear the front door, in walks Eric, pale and distressed, and he meets their inquiring stares. This moment of drama and tension, because of course everyone has realised that Eric is the young man that has got Eva Smith in trouble. And then last one to look at, although I'm sure there are more that you can explore, but I like this one. This is after he has found out about his involvement with Daisy Went and Eva Smith, and Sheila has very, very sensibly said, here's your ring back, and he goes out. He goes out, they watch him go in silence, and we hear the front door slam. Now, the reason that I put this one in is because this exit feels really quite dramatic, and it feels like it's a moment where Gerald has learned his lesson. But by the time that he enters back into the circle, it's like all of those lessons have been undone, and he just becomes another version of Mr. Burling, ready to discount the inspector. We think at this moment that he's going out to think, you know, that he's going out to consider himself, but what he's actually doing is going out to try and disprove the inspector's theories, and in fact to disprove the inspector's existence. That's it from me. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that those 5 dramatic devices helped. I promise you, in your essays and inspector calls, add them into the mix in your analysis and you will get better grades. If you've got any questions, do just give me a shout, pop them in the comments and I will get back to you. And if you haven't subscribed, please click that button and then you'll be made aware of more videos coming your way. Thanks so much again. Happy revising.